welcome Gaurav. I think you are sitting on one of the most exciting sport in the world, I believe.
The audience of pickleball, right? We are looking at the Gen Z, we are looking at the youngsters because they like pickleball because it's more fun, it's community, you go out and meet people. Bloomberg has said that it is the new golf.
How did the concept of league come about?
Aarti and me firmly believe that a league has its own advantages. Vision also was to make sure that India becomes a powerhouse in pickleball, and because we have good hand-eye coordination, pickleball doesn't really require as much fitness as the other sports. We believe that Indian players can really dominate. While it is called the World Pickleball League, we want Indian players to benefit. Hence, we started doing something called the World Pickleball League on tour. So between season 1 and season 2, as of today, we've done about 44 events. All of this is to also activate the amateur on-ground structure.
How do you see that commercially balancing out 3 to 5 years? Like, are there brands that are supporting this sport?
Called Sony Entertainment Talent Ventures India, which is a 50-50 JV between Sony Pictures LA and Sony Music New York. For the first time ever globally, they decided to invest in a sports and entertainment IP. Swiggy saw this fitting in right into their hyperlocal plans because they believe that pickleball is going to go hyperlocal. Yeah. We have seen how the players have benefited from leagues. Maybe it's for a short term, but even in that short term, the kind of money some of the players have earned in other leagues is really good. Which is a nice mix of, creative powerhouses like an Atlee, incredible actresses like a Genelia, Samantha, business people, private equity fund, Sunil Gavaskar on one side, Rishabh Pant, Ashok Amritraj.
What would average players make in your league?
It starts from $3,000-$4,000 and goes up to $40,000, $50,000
for the 15 days.
Just for 15 days, yeah.
Wow. So your vision has always been this becomes the World League as against an Indian-centric league.
We've got players from 18 countries, including India, coming from all over the world. Season 2, that's why it's a Geo World Garden, Jan 27th to February 8th. We wanted it to be a sports and entertainment spectacle, hence right in the heart of the financial district of the financial capital of India. And these are all things which, nobody has actually done before.
So welcome Gaurav. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I think you are sitting on one of the most exciting sport in the world, I believe. Like, especially it's been a crazy how the sport of pickleball has kind of surfaced in our country. So tell us a little bit about the sport itself. Like, what's the journey been for the sport in our country?
I think the journey has been very interesting because, Aarti also played tennis for India with me, and for us, we've been in the sports consulting, advisory, infrastructure space, and I think we saw a lot of potential in 2023 in India. I think शायद कोई ऐसा गेम ना हो जो वेस्ट में इतना पॉपुलर होके इतनी जल्दी इस sphere में आया है, एशिया में, ऑस्ट्रेलिया में, and so on and so forth. Of course, we thought that it will take a lot more time for it to really gain traction, but what we believed would take 3 years, I think in a year and a half we are seeing that kind of traction for the sport in India. That comes with its pluses and its minuses, but I think the pluses right now far outweigh the minuses.
Absolutely. And it's not just I always think about like sports in a spectrum of participation versus viewership, right? In a way, like on one end I always think about Formula 1, which is like completely viewership dominant sport. You almost as a fan will never experience the sport. Almost never, right? You can obviously do karting and this and that, but the actual experience of the sport is almost zero. Right? Thoda koi model car ye wo kar sakte hain, but beyond that is, and on the other end of the spectrum is like a golf, where you like, I feel like people who play will swear by it. People who don't play will hate watching it. It's so difficult to get. So where does pickle stand in this, and how do you see it evolving?
See, I think as of today, it's definitely a participative sport. I mean, you mentioned golf, but a sport like running or marathon,
absolutely,
or Ironmans, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody will actually watch it, but most people will want to experience running it. And I think today pickleball, as of today, is a participative sport. Whether it will transcend into a into a watching or a viewing sport, I think only time will tell. Having said that, in some places in Southeast Asia and of course in the US and stuff, there are tournaments which have happened where there are 5,000-7,000 people coming to watch, and that hasn't happened in most other racket sports, right?
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, as of today, it's a participative sport. I think that it will veer also towards a spectator or a viewing sport. How long that journey takes, I think, is anybody's guess.
But that will be critical from the commercial development of the sport. Ultimately, paisa to TV, unless people are watching, whether it is ticket money, TV money, even sponsors, if the viewership remains low and it's a participative sport, the direction might be very different from other sports.
I don't know. Again, I'd like to take the example of running or marathons or Ironmans or some of these other sports, right? They are mostly participative sport. I mean, even if I'm a marathoner, am I going to sit and watch on TV
Almost never.
when there is a Berlin marathon or a
even
Boston
the best
marathon?
Runners or best marathoners,
Yeah. So I think that it's in India because of maybe cricket that there's this whole ki, TV pe aana chahiye, streaming pe aana chahiye. It has to be on, but if you look at a lot of the new age sports, a lot of them are also looking at what is the on ground live experience. Why are live performances in India becoming so crazy? I mean, in the last 2 years, if you see the music concerts, some of the biggest artists from Coldplay to Ed Sheeran to everybody has come.
Also the disposability of income around that.
Correct. And that is also the audience of pickleball, right? We are looking at the Gen Z, we are looking at the youngsters because they like pickleball because it's more fun, it's community, you go out and meet people. Now it's becoming a big dating thing as well. There are, people who are doing business after playing pickleball matches. So it's actually, Bloomberg has said that it is the new golf, right?
Speed dating, pickle dating.
Correct. Because also from a business perspective, golf is very inaccessible to most people.
Absolutely.
Unlike pickleball, it's more expensive to get a membership, very tough game to learn vis-a-vis pickleball, which is very, very easy, right? So I think all these factors make it a very, very interesting mix, when it comes to the business side of it.
Which are the countries which have this sport most evolved, like globally?
So of course, America, and not many people know, but pickleball was invented in 1965.
65?
Yes.
Wow.
And it really got popular during COVID in the US, and then it's now moved to Asia. I think Asia, other than the US, of course, in Asia, obviously India, China, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, all these countries, pickleball is really, really growing.
And in a market like the US where TV kind of still dominates how the commercial reality of many sports is that the route pickle is taking? Is it a spectator sport, or is it still more of a participation sport there also?
So I think again one has to remember that pickleball has really grown in the last 4-5 years, right? I mean, when we compare TV numbers in India, of course everybody compares it to cricket, but even in the US, right? You have your NBAs, you have your NFLs, you have your National Baseball, MLBs. They have all been around for 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, and the sport has been around for 100 years.
100 years, right? Pickleball, the journey is just starting. So today, even in the US, I don't think, and I don't know to be honest, but I don't think there is too much revenues coming from TV and all of that. I think the craze and the growth of pickleball has just been because just so many people want to play. Look, there are only two reasons why one is associated with sport. One is either you play it or either you follow it. So you may follow tennis because of Roger Federer. You may follow football because of a Messi or a Ronaldo, right? Or you just play the sport and you've experienced and you love it so much and you say, अरे यार मैं ये खेलता हूँ, मुझे देखने दे क्या है YouTube पे on pickleball, right? Correct. And I think pickleball falls in the latter bucket. We don't have players that are well known as yet because they're, it's a new sport. But there are a lot of players from India who are already winning at the Asian and international level. And I think that is only going to grow as the game grows in India and across Asia.
So, very interesting point you picked up on. Either you follow or play or maybe both. But there is now this cool angle or social angle which is almost like a unique to pickle. that pickle has been able to create for itself. I don't know how, right? Like in my circles, there are people who don't necessarily, definitely not follow the sport from a spectator perspective. They might not be very keen or interested in playing, but it is somehow become a part of the community to say it's cool to play. जब मेरा एक जिम है छोटा सा, हम अपना जो एक ओपन फ्लोर है उसको sometimes we convert it to a pickle court. It's almost 80% size of a regular court, and after workout a bunch of us play there. There are people who play who don't really love the sport, but it's that the community angle that is. So has it been a deliberate attempt somehow, or it just evolved that way somehow?
I would like to take credit and say, I have made it that, but not at all. I think it's just happened, right? I think today there is a FOMO factor attached to pickleball. I mean, you go to any party today, right? Earlier it was only about politics and cricket and, maybe a little bit about business here and there. But pickleball has entered the consciousness. Whenever you now talk of a sport, unless you're living in a rock, most people who read the newspapers or follow the news know about pickleball. I think again, it's just because it's so easy to play, and the millions of people who never tried their hand at sport, right, feel that this is a easy way to enter. And a lot of them, I mean, you may have friends, or maybe you've gone through this journey where आप 10वीं में थे, 12वीं, 12th standard में थे, और आपने आपके माता पिता ने बोला अभी बस करो, अभी पढ़ाई करो, right? And there are a lot of people of that generation and now the younger generation who are saying that, okay, we have disposable income, we want to stay fit, right? Gymming and all of that, running is there, but how do we actually play? Because there's no greater joy than playing a sport. Absolutely. Right? That
Absolutely.
And pickleball has a force multiplier effect, because not only it's a game which you can play with everybody, but it is also a game where you can sit on the side, have a glass of coffee or go out and then discuss pickleball and all of that, because the levels are not very different, right? I mean, I play tennis for India. My wife played tennis for India. My father was a world number 3 in badminton, as you know. My in-laws have won medals at the Asian Games, in athletics. Even with a family like ours, it was only pickleball about a year and a half ago where 16, 17 of my family members, my 2 elder sisters, brother-in-laws, their kids, their grandkids and all of that, we booked 2 courts and we played a game of pickleball and then went and had breakfast, right? We booked 2 courts. The youngest was 5.5 or 6 years old, who's my nephew, and the oldest was 62. But all of us could play. Which other sport allows you to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of times, like, just say, I've grown up playing, and now going to the gym is fine. But at the end of the day, like you said, nothing is more pleasurable than actually playing a sport. Now, football is too risky. Ek bad tackle, and I'm in my 40s, so ACL, they're seeing too many people getting injured. Tennis is too cumbersome. Badminton has its own challenges when it comes to infrastructure, like indoor courts available hone chahiye. And I also feel with badminton, if you're very bad, it's not a good workout. If it's very good, if you're good, then it's too much of a workout.
But again, you need your level of players in front.
Correct.
Right.
So here everyone's on the base.
Correct.
You can make it intense if you want. You can make it fun if you want.
Correct.
And it's still a new sport, so it's not like you can't find people.
Correct.
So I think that's definitely going for pickleball.
Yeah.
So tell me about, of course, you've been a very celebrated player in tennis, and I know today is more discussion about pickleball, but how did it, like, when you first experienced the sport of pickleball, when you saw it, was it like an instant that this can be big and I want to get into it? Or how did you actually get into the business side of it?
No, actually, to be honest, when Aarti and me, a lot of our friends said, "Arey, you both of you have played tennis for India. You should play pickleball." We were like, like any tennis player or badminton player, we said, "Arey, why should we play?" This was 2 years back. But then we played it, and then we realized that there is a business opportunity here. And then we also realized that the average age is coming down drastically. Today you have 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids who are taking to pickleball. Why? Because their parents are playing it. And when their parents take them to the pickleball court, they see their parents play and they say, we want to play. That's how we started playing a sport, right? I mean, our parents took us and said, acha, ye khelo, try this and all of that, right? So I think that's essentially how we got into it. It was not premeditated. It was something that we just realized that there's an opportunity, and we thought that we should look at the early mover advantage.
And how did the concept of league come about? Now, one thing that Indian sport, the professional sports ecosystem, the good thing is that we have all these new leagues. The bad thing is most leagues have a very flawed and broken commercial model.
Yeah.
So when you decided to kind of venture into the league itself, what was the thought process? Ki look at a similar model that exists, because India mein leagues chal rahi hain bahut sari. Yeah, like why a league per se? Why not like doing tournaments or replicating like a tennis format globally and so on?
So I think what initially when we were thinking what can we do, tournaments was the easiest thing to do, but Aarti and me firmly believe that a league has its own advantages, right? You look at some of the other leagues which have started, okay, maybe financially they are not doing well, but both Aarti and me are former players, and for us, we have seen how the players have benefited from leagues. Maybe it's for a short term, but even in that short term, the kind of money some of the players have earned in other leagues is really good. So we looked at it from a player perspective, and then we looked at it from a business perspective, and we felt that maybe a league would make sense. And that's how we conceptualized the World Pickleball League. This was, we started thinking about it in April of 2023. Actually earlier, end of 2022. We kind of had a structure in place in 2023, middle of 2023, and then, we went to speak to a few people, and then Sony Global Corporation, through their Indian subsidiary called Sony Entertainment Talent Ventures India, which is a 50-50 JV between Sony Pictures LA and Sony Music New York. For the first time ever globally, they decided to invest in a sports and entertainment IP, because we were very clear that, so one of the things that we were very clear is we have to have entertainment. It can't just be a sports property, because most of the time they don't work.
Yeah.
At least in India. So, Sethia and their board saw the value, and Sony Global Corporation in Japan then decided, okay, let's look at this. So that's how the World Pickleball League came about, and that's how Sethia came into the picture.
So they are an investor in the league. They are an
investor in the league, and obviously Sony globally has a lot of businesses which are allied to entertainment, whether you look at content, whether you look at music, whether you look at gaming, all of these are very, very well entrenched in the entertainment space, and because ours is a sportainment property, they saw value in it.
And what role does the Indian Federation play in your league? Like, is there a partnership with them, or how does that work out? Or is there a federation?
No, so there are, like in most sports in India, there are two federations. We are associated with one, which is the All India Pickleball Association. The matter is in court
between the two,
as again, like with 11 or other sports federations in India, other sports federations. So, I wouldn't like to comment too much on that, because the matter's in court. But suffice to say that the All India Pickleball Association is our partner, and also the United World Pickleball Federation, which is now the apex body, which is now trying to get into the Olympics. So
but even globally, there's a couple of bodies.
So now those bodies have merged. They have merged to create something called the United World Pickleball Federation, because everyone wants pickleball into the Olympics, but the IOC was very clear that you need to have one body globally. So their hand was forced to actually merge, and that merger I think happened 2 months ago, or I think whatever.
And this is based out of the US.
This is based out of the US, but now they've set up an office in Lausanne, which is where the IOC headquarters is.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So there is the world body. Eventually at some point, whatever happens in India, that body gets associated to the world body. And you are in partnership with them. Now at your league, do you really need do you need any support from the association, or what will be the benefits that you'll have?
To be honest, we are a private league, and in India, again, a lot of this is misunderstood. So when you have an association with a federation, it is for the players, it is for the infrastructure, and it is for all of that, right? But because the sport is so new and the players are free agents in pickleball, like
Absolutely.
also in tennis, or also to a certain extent in badminton, and now the international tournaments are starting where representation from India will happen and stuff. But otherwise, as a private league, while we respect our partners and things, I don't think any private league, not just us, requires the federation unless there is a big angle of infrastructure and player involvement that is needed.
But जैसे आप एक बात बताओ, let's take the example of Kabaddi, right? Successful league, it has good numbers, been sustainable, being sustained for over 10 years. Star Sports is invested in the league. Now, federation has had its own ups and downs there, right? To a point where at some point, if the federation gets debarred or if they're not able to be relevant in terms of being able to send players to Asia level or whatever, वहाँ फेडरेशन उसमें the league pays a significant amount of money to the federation, right? I feel there is more nuisance value. Jैse if the federation says I'll hold back some players, or if they tell the players that if you play in this league, you will not be eligible to play for India, you might not be eligible to play the Kabaddi World Cup, you might not be eligible to play the Asian Games or whatever that might be. Isn't that a little counterproductive for the sport itself?
Yeah, absolutely. And now we are getting into a more of a political discussion, but I'm happy to, put my foot out there. Look, honestly, I don't know what's happening. I mean, I only read in the papers and I hear because I'm in the sporting ecosystem about what's happening with others. I think for us, the All India Pickleball Association has been supportive, but because there is a lot of chaos, because it's a new sport, there are two federations and everything. I think you're right that it can be a nuisance value or detrimental. And unfortunately, again, because Aarti and me are players, for us, we are very clear. It is the players, it is the franchisees,
that are the center
and it is the investors and sponsors. These are the only three main stakeholders that are very important. And of course, the spectators and the fans, which will happen. But even the spectators and fans won't happen if the franchisees, the team owners, the sponsors, and the players are not happy, right? And I think a lot of leagues don't realize that because maybe they're not run by players, right? One of the things that we are told all the time is that and we are proud of it, Aarti and me, is that this is the only league which is started by former players who played for India, right? It's not really owned by the federation. We've got someone like a Sony to come and invest, which is massive, right? I don't think any other league has this kind of an investor, right? If you really look at it, this kind of a marquee investor.
Absolutely.
So I think in that sense, we believe that we have created something new that will hopefully be followed by the others. Of course, there will always be, anything that you do always has its challenges and stuff. But I agree with you. I think that, and this leads me to my earlier point where I said, pickleball is growing so fast and that has its pros and cons. And I think a lot of people and a lot of, I would say, organizations are getting into it for the wrong reasons. They feel that, pickleball hai, let's make a quick buck.
Even there is on the business side, there's also a FOMO.
Correct. So there is a correct, exactly, right? So everybody feels, yaar, 1-2 saal hai, jo bhi hai, let's ride the wave. It's like how the gym wave was, or in the middle the pool wave was, right? I mean, it still lasted for 15-20 years, and I believe that eventually the wheat is separated from the chaff, and hopefully the good people will, and the good organizations, the structured organizations will still continue to do well. But yeah, it's a tricky one. And as players, Aarti and me feel really, really sad that, it is always, every exception barring none, where the player benefits in the short term but suffers in the long term the most.
True. And I think this point of you having kind of both the perspectives, the business perspective and more importantly the player perspective, brings this gets a unique perspective, unique overall view for you guys, because I think most other leagues are either business people or federations. And then there are competing priorities. And I think that really helps.
Yeah, that's what we've been told. And I think now initially it was just, okay, we used to hear it and we used to like say, okay. But now we can see it because there are certain... again, when Aarti and me were players, we used to say, okay, why is the federation doing this? Or why is the sponsor doing this? Or why is this happening? Now that we are on the other side of the fence, right, we also realize a little bit from this side of the fence that, okay, the players have their challenges, but this side also there are certain challenges, right? And again, I mean, to be brutally honest, players have also created issues sometimes in the past, and they will continue to do so. It's unfair to paint everyone with the same brush. But for us as players, the fact that we are able to sympathize and empathize with the players, as well as now empathize and sympathize with ourselves as owners of the league, I think strikes a good balance for us.
Absolutely, I would absolutely agree with that. When you were looking at Sony as a central investor in the league, one of the kind of questions, so to speak, in your mind would be, on one side, most leagues in India fail because the cost of putting it on TV is so high. So for example, if I create a new property of any sport, and if a broadcaster is not very keen on putting it, it's almost like I'm buying TV slots. Right, add slot and putting my, so मैं उसको production करूँगा और I'll have to pay a Sony or whoever to put it on, right? The cost of that is so high. But if you have a partner like Sony as a partner, they will promote it, they will leverage their assets and time and so on and so forth. So that's definitely a pro. But on the flip side, you are also in a situation that, let's say 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, if it actually turns out to be a very big spectator sport, you will probably not be able to openly look at the best broadcaster to broadcast it. Then you're kind of tied up with Sony. Was that a discussion, or how does that pan out?
No, it was absolutely a discussion. And one of the main things that we were very clear on, and Sony understood it, is that because of the conflict, right? Setvi is a company which has come on as an investor, but we are completely at arm's length with Sony. For example, in season 1, the broadcast was on Sony Sports Network on TV, but not on Sony Live. It was on Fan Code. For season 2, our broadcast is on Eurosport, but we have Sony Live. So for us, it's very clear, and for Setvi as well.
Whatever the best deal.
Setvi is a investor. So they have to also look at what is best for the league. And of course, we know the cases of the Kabaddi and football, football and all of that, and how the conflict is where the broadcaster is always, also sitting as an investor, right? So Aarti and me were very clear. Sony was very understanding. We had to explain the whole ecosystem and how it works, and they understood it. And I think that, they've been brilliant as an investor. And, like I said, we have also tied up with one of Southeast Asia's largest streaming platforms for season 2. We will announce it in the next few days. And all of these things are very clear with Sony or with Setvi that, there can't be a conflict. So there was this was the first thing that was put on the table when we approached, Sony, and Sony came to us and we started negotiating.
Okay, that's actually brilliant. And tell me a little bit about the structure. So the central body organization that holds the rights to World Pickleball League is yours, which has Sony as a kind of an investor in that organization. Then you have the franchises, which are now 7, correct?
Yeah.
And what is the league franchise relationship? How does that work? They pay a fee to you?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So essentially, Natekar Sports and Gaming owns the IP to the World Pickleball League. Sony is, through Setvi, is an investor. We have 7 franchisees. Our vision for the league always was that we wanted franchisees who would be invested not only from their personality or their name, but also financially and all of that. Because one of the reasons I believe, some of the leagues have failed is because too much money was paid to people as brand ambassadors, right? And when you don't have skin in the game, then everybody kind of, loses interest because it becomes very transactional, right? So that's with the 7 teams. From day one, it was supposed to be a sports and entertainment property. Hence, we got, Swiggy. I mean, it's the first time in India where a brand has actually bought a team in a league. It happens a lot in the West, but Swiggy saw this fitting in right into their hyperlocal plans because they believe that pickleball is going to go hyperlocal. That's how they came on board. So, all these other names are somebody we actually cherry picked and chose. Some of them said, some of them had a lot of questions, but we are very happy that we got the kind of team owners that we have, which is a nice mix of, creative powerhouses like an Atlee, incredible actresses like a Genelia, Samantha, business people, private equity fund, Sunil Gavaskar on one side, Rishabh Pant, Ashok Amritraj, who's a big film producer, and of course the youngest of the Amritraj siblings. So that was our vision. So far so good. I think that season 2, that's why it's a Geo World Garden. Jan 27th to February 8th. We wanted it to be a sports and entertainment spectacle, hence right in the heart of the financial district of the financial capital of India. And these are all things which nobody has actually done before. So we've tried to push the envelope to make sure that not only the game grows, but people just come out and play, right? And that was another box that we wanted to tick, that unfortunately India has the worst parameters when it comes to health, diabetes, thyroid, or just general fitness. And pickleball is a great way for people to just, come out and play. Right.
I mean, while having fun, you also get a good workout. And And tell me a little bit about the players. So your vision has always been this becomes the world league as against an Indian centric league, so to speak. What was kind of the pros and cons of that?
No, I think great question. I think it's called the World Pickleball League. This year we had players from 25 countries, including India in the draft. And now we've got players from 18 countries, including India, coming from all over the world, right? Having said that, we know that one of the vision also was to make sure that India becomes a powerhouse in pickleball. And because we have good hand-eye coordination, pickleball doesn't really require as much fitness as the other sports. We believe that Indian players can really dominate. And we didn't want to be in a situation, Aarti and me, when we were growing up, the players from the West, they had better equipment, they had better resources, and they were not necessarily better players, but they just had better access to everything. And of course, genetically, tennis is a game where you need to be 6 feet too tall. You need to, all of that now, especially, when I was playing, maybe not so much, right? Yeah. But that's why we felt that pickleball, is a great opportunity, and that's why we want to make sure that while it is called the World Pickleball League, we want Indian players to benefit. Hence, we started doing something called the World Pickleball League on tour. So between season 1 and season 2, as of today, we've done about 44 events, which are small, medium, large. These are, so for example, we did clinics for beginners. We did just women-centric events because 40% women play. That's why our team owners also, 4 of our team owners teams are owned by by women, right? And all of this is to also activate the amateur on-ground structure, right? So that's why the World Pickleball League, and also from a brand perspective, there is just, most brands say, "Arey 15 दिन का league है, उसके बाद क्या?" Here we are saying that through the year,
throughout there's engagement, there's touch points. Yeah. So so every team has 8 players. Yeah. One of the player has to be an Indian player. Yes. One of the player has to be a youth player. Yes. Does this youth player have to be from India, or it can be from anywhere?
No, so it does. There is no youth player as such. One player has to be from India, and we have mandated our franchise owners to do some talent scouting and grassroots development in the franchise cities. Okay. So we ourselves, as the league, have sponsored one big tournament in each of our franchisees to do it.
So that scouting event.
Yes. And also that was an open event. So you had your 35 pluses and all of that, but it was also, there were junior events as well.
And typically, would you say that some of the best players in the world participate in this league?
So that's a tricky one, simply because globally, there is no ranking system yet. There is a rating system that is there, but the rating system also has its flaws, which I won't get into here. But I would say that, do we have the best players in the world? I would say that out of the top 20, we would have a majority of them who would come for season 2. Not all of them. Yeah.
And in the absence of ranking, like, how do you actually define, like, how do you actually get the players? Like, in an ideal world, you would want the quality of the play to be high as possible, right? As long as it's within the commercial, it's making commercial sense, right?
Yeah.
Like in the context of tennis, if you say, if I have to get Djokovic or Sinner in every, you might not be able to afford them, right? But here is very different because rankings don't really exist. So what is the process of picking these international players?
So we have a scouting team. Okay. Initially it was Aarti, me. We had a head of player management, who's now us. Then we have a CEO now. And we actually traveled across the world pretty much in 2023-24 to scout the players. So we went to, I would say, 10-12 tournaments between us, right? And we really spoke to a lot of the players, agents, the national, federations in those countries, some of the movers and shakers in pickleball in those countries who owned large academies in those countries. And that's and our way of scouting, or our parameters for scouting were very simple. Number one, the player he or she has to be good. If we have a good ranking, great. Talent perspective. So we had one 16-year-old last year. I think this year we'll have 2 or 3 players who are ranging from the age of 16 to 18 or 19. Very, very talented players from across the world. Obviously, they had to have a certain etiquette and things because we want to uphold the highest standards of integrity. Those were really the 3 or 4 parameters. So while ratings was important, like I said, the ratings are a bit flawed, and it's nobody's fault. It's just
evolving.
It's just how it is. And again, that's where Aarti and my experience as having played came into effect, because immediately we could see if it's a youngster who was playing tennis and has now moved to pickleball, or somebody who was playing badminton and has now moved to pickleball. We could immediately see the talent, and we could say, listen, ye 15 saal ka hai, ye 2-3 saal mein he will become top in the world, certainly top in Asia or wherever it is. So isko, let's see if we can sign him. So you'll see in our season 2 there'll be quite a few young players.
And if you're a good player globally, is this can you make a career of just playing pickleball? Like, is it a reasonable living?
Look, I mean, just go and see how many former tennis players are turning to pickleball, and that should give you the answer. So I think right now it's just crazy what some of the players are making. I believe that it's going to get to a point where it's going to be too inflated. I think we're already getting to that point where the players are getting inflated salaries, which is good and bad, because a lot of a lot of other sports, it's happened where either the players making too much money and the business fails, or the league owners or the other people are making too much money, and then the players are not happy, and then so that balance is again something that Aarti and me are very conscious about, and we take it very seriously.
So what would average players make in your league, if you're comfortable sharing?
Look, it starts from I would say it starts from $3,000-4,000 and goes up to $40,000. $50,000
for the 15 days.
Just for 15 days, yeah.
Wow. So some of the better players will make at the higher end of that.
Yeah.
And how do you see right now the Indian players in comparison to some of the best players in your league? Like, are we there and thereabout, or is there quite a bit of a delta?
No, we are already there. But unfortunately, because we have traveled across the world, the other countries, like other sports, are catching up very fast. And now it's eventually going to be also a very physical sport. So it's not just going to be on your hand-eye coordination. And again, honestly, if we don't get if in the sense this whole federation and if all of us don't come together and really work towards building the game of pickleball and, getting the country's name out there in pickleball, I think unfortunately I can see it because we've seen this, in the last 35-40 years, we've seen it in tennis, I've seen it in multiple sports, and unfortunately because of the lack of vision, we could suffer in the long term.
But right now you see, you talk about hand-eye coordination. I always feel like sports where hand-eye coordination is more dominant than brute strength, we tend to do better. Like even if you take the example of tennis, right? As the game has progressed to become faster and faster,
correct,
we are still okay with doubles, but we struggle at the singles, right?
No, even my father was a world number 3 in badminton, a legend of the sport in the 50s and 60s. But today, would he have survived? Possibly not, because he just had, he had hands of God, is what a lot of people say. People who watched him, and of course, people who follow. So I think that, the game has become way too powerful. The same is going to happen with pickleball. There's going to be a lot of advancement in technology in terms of the paddles, balls, all of that is already coming. And if we don't watch it, unfortunately, this first mover advantage that we have is going to be lost.
And the one thing I forgot to ask you when we were talking about the foreign players and how they are picked, how are these, like the marquee Indian 7 players picked? Is there a qualifying process, or is it just handpicked through scouting?
No, so it's a combination of both. Actually, there's no handpicking in scouting because honestly, in India, the talent pool is there, but still a lot needs to be done. So for example, in our first season, we had only 7 Indian players. So literally each team didn't have a choice. This year we had 15 players, right? And we hope that number will grow exponentially in the years to come. So our choice of selection was partly with what the federation recommended and also partly what Aarti and me saw as well.
And the pool was anyway so small, so it wasn't like
correct
that you had 307 to pick
exactly. But eventually our dream is to get to a point where the players feel ke boss mere ko ye league mein khelna hai. So we actually have qualifiers, or we have something like that where there is a very structured and a very transparent selection process. Now whether the federation does that or whether we as the league do that or we do it jointly, we don't know.
And you mentioned there's good amount of money that the players are making depending on how good they are. So from a league perspective, of course, you have the teams that share some of the costs with you. But at the end of the day, you'll probably need either some amount of TV money or sponsorship money for both the teams and the league or ticketing money or whatever that might be. How do you see, so right now I'm assuming it's all in the investment phase, both from the team perspective and also at the league perspective.
Yeah.
How do you see that commercially balancing out 3 to 5 years? Like, are there brands that are supporting this sport? Are there other revenue avenues that you feel that might kind of open up in the next few years?
See, I think ticketing anyway, even in cricket, right? Ticketing is hardly anything. I mean, even if you have a Eden Gardens with 1 lakh, what is the ticketing revenue going to be? Because a lot of it goes to the local stakeholders, VIPs and all of that, right? But I think that for pickleball, there's a lot of brands that are wanting to enter and have already entered. Some of them marquee. From our perspective, look, even in the IPL, I think a KKR or a Mumbai Indians broke even in their 6th or the 7th year.
Correct.
And I think pickleball is no different. Probably a little sooner, I would say, and our franchisees know that. But again, the whole landscape is changing so quickly that we also will have to pivot with some of our rules, with some of our structure that we have and all of that.
In what sense are you saying? Like, make the game more entertainment?
So for example, our format, I don't know if you know, but our format is very unique. It's 15 minutes per match, right? And it's 5 matches. Again, nobody has done this, right? And the reason for that was that we didn't want long drawn matches. I mean, the great part about tennis is that a match can go 5.5 hours. But I've been a commentator on TV, So I've seen also that scheduling matches, becomes a nightmare, not only for the TV broadcaster and for the commentators, because you don't know whether you're going to sit where you sit for a match to commentate and you don't know whether it'll get over in 2.5 hours or 5 hours.
Even the players sometimes they're just waiting, kya ho raha hai, kab khatam hoga, then they have to go
then
on.
Scheduling for TV, on ground, on court, for the referees to schedule, for the players, all of that, right? So we said 15 minutes. We have some other innovations called pickle play, where a player can be substituted midway for 5 points. So all of these things we've added to try and keep the soul of the game intact, but at the same time make it more interesting for the spectator on ground as well as for the viewer.
And also makes it very crisp, right? If you look at 5 matches, 15 minutes, thoda bahut break mila ke, like everything gets wrapped up in 2 hours kind of a thing.
Exactly, right? So TV can plan. I mean, it's like a football match. You know कि 45 minutes का 2 halves है, उसमें injury time 2-4 minutes ऊपर. Correct. You know in 100 minutes it's going to be done. Right? For our players, it was a very different experience, because after 8 or 9 minutes, there would be a player leading, but he would start looking at the clock and say, okay, I have to get through only 6 more minutes. And he would start choking, and then the other player would catch up. We had a couple of ties which were tied at like 14-all, 15-all. These are all things that was never seen in pickleball.
So what happens after 15 minutes? Wherever the
stop.
match stands, it stops.
In fact, the semi-final last year between Mumbai Pickleball, which is owned by Swiggy and Rishabh, and Pune United, which is owned by Sudhir Mehta, Ajinkya Patil and Ritesh and Ginelia. In the semi-final, there were 2 matches all, and the 5th match was a tie of 12 all or 13 all after 15. So we had to have a super tie break.
Oh wow.
And then that super tie break went into 11. It was a 7-point super tie break. It went into some 11-9 or 12-10 or something like that.
Crazy.
And it was almost, Pune won, and it was crazy. The videos are all online because everybody rushed on the ground. Ritesh and Ginelia were there to watch, because that excitement of the super tie break and all of that is something that is not there in pickleball or in most other racket
sports. But that probably came in because of the 15-minute rule in a way.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Otherwise, it would have just gone on.
It's a 1 in a million that it'll be 2 matches all, and the 5th match will be a tie. And it's not that the first match was at 14 all. The 5th match went to 14 all. So exactly. That's why it was even more exciting.
Absolutely.
Right, because otherwise what could have happened is the first match would have been 14 all, and so the excitement level just grew, and then it was amazing.
Perfect storm.
Perfect storm. Absolutely.
How are you able to get such cream investors? Because I think a lot of sports...
You're talking of investors or owners or both?
I meant owners, like both. Franchise owners.
Both.
Because I feel like a lot of leagues have suffered by having unstable, not so interested, maybe people there for the wrong reasons. Those kinds of franchise owners or team owners. And I think to get people who are keen on the sport, and they're not there just because somebody's paying them, like the celebrities especially, and also like involved, like they can put in their time, effort to get this kind of a cream is almost like you're sure of one aspect of success.
No, I think we have a great team as well, but initially all the selling was pretty much done by our core team and Aarti and me. Look, we were just very honest and upfront with whoever we went to. Samantha wanted Chennai. She wanted to do it because she went through a health scare.
Second year में आपने profit नहीं दिखाया अपने business plan में ना उनको. I've seen way too many league presentations. Second year में आपका profit बन जाएगा जी.
No. I know. All the team owners know that it will take 4 or 5 seasons. But for them, it was very different reasons. Samantha was because she wanted to do something for women in Chennai. In my first meeting with her, she said, Gaurav, when you guys play, you all go out to play tennis or badminton, and then you all will go to a coffee shop or a restaurant or a bar or whatever. But for women, we have nothing. Right? It's mostly, just sitting out. So she wanted to change and move the needle there. Ritesh and Ginelia were very clear that this is a sport where couples can play. Swiggy was very clear that they want to look at this as a hyper-local activity. Right?
Good fit for everyone.
So we just told them the truth. We said that if you're looking at the short term, not not going to work out. And we, obviously there were a lot of questions and things which we answered, but I think eventually we got,
How many people rejected the idea?
A lot of
I had to get 6 franchise.
So I would say for the team owners, honestly, there were not too many rejections. But for investors and all of that, of course, you have to usually, run through a lot before you find somebody. Sponsors is the same. But I think for the team owners, honestly, we really didn't have to speak to too many, because we also started speaking to them in end of 23 or early 24. And that was when pickleball was really, really kind of, growing. Of course, it's still growing by leaps and bounds now. But I think in that sense, we had to have quite a few conversations, and we've got a tremendous amount of interest even now. We would like to cap it at 10 teams. We've got a tremendous amount of interest even today from actually I don't like to call them celebrities, but for lack of a better word,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
And that's why I think people saw our season 1 at CCI Brabant Stadium. This year is Geo World Garden, so we're hoping that we'll be able to really put on a good sports and entertainment show.
And which is the 7th team? Who are the owners for that? The new one, the Jaipur team.
So Jaipur, so we are still we want to make a formal announcement next week.
Fair.
And including the co-owners, but we will announce it soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also similar in the sense that people passionate about the sport.
Absolutely. I mean, they're all very, very clued in, and the wavelength matches.
Gaurav, what would success look like for you? Like, what if you look back once you've retired and say, this was successful, what would that look like? Or is it you're already there?
To be a bit tongue, no. I mean, look, success is very relative. When I see when Aarti and me, and we were just talking about it a couple of days back, when we see who we were and where we have come, and this was magnified at the athletes forum that we had with the Indian Olympic Association a few days back. There are very few sports people who have transcended the world of sport and got into business and entrepreneurship. So in that sense, I would say we are successful. But, success is very relative.
I meant specifically for the league.
For the league, okay. Because from a more, broader and philosophical perspective.
Come on, you've represented our country, Asian medals.
So I keep telling everyone.
You're already and transcended the world of business of sport. I would definitely like to imagine you are a top success story of our country.
No, thank you.
But I purely meant at the league level.
So I will just be a little philosophical in the sense that, we keep joking that now whenever we go for a party or whenever we introduce is always, by the way, these guys own these guys are the owners of the World Pickleball League, and they also used to play tennis for India, right? Yeah. So I think success for me, tongue in cheek, after 10 years would be that we are known equally as people who represented India in tennis, but also were able to build a successful league with keeping most of the stakeholders happy. I think I'd be stupid to think that we'll keep everybody happy. That never happens. But success for the league, I would say, is again that we're able to show value after 7 or 8 years. So we are in 2026, I would say by 2030, where our franchisees have seen value. We've built the game of pickleball in the country, and we've played a small role in actually, getting the whole getting a broader base of players to play pickleball, and out of that, some players have gone on to represent the country. I think these would be our key markers, and of course helping the player ecosystem in India first, obviously, and then across the globe.
Amazing. You mentioned a little bit about the IOA Players Forum. Tell us a little bit about that experience. And
I think it was incredible because so the International Olympic Committee has a mandate.
This is the International Olympic Committee.
I'm coming to that. So the IOC has a mandate that there has to be that every National Olympic Association has to have an athletes forum, which is a forum for athletes to air their grievances, to come up with ideas, to educate athletes, because athletes and sports people, they have such tunnel vision that they don't know what to do once they stop playing. Now, of course, you have agents and all of that, but there's a lot of athletes, millions of athletes who are not represented because they're athletes, but they're not marketable stars, right? And I think that the IOA, for the Indian Olympic Association, for the first time, PT Usha, their professional CEO that they've got, Raghu Iyer, they actually got this IOA Athletes Forum, which was just 50 or 60 of the top athletes over the last 25, 30 years to come and just exchange ideas and thoughts. And, I was invited, me and Aarti, and I was invited to speak on career transition in sport.
Oh, wow.
Along
very
with...
relevant.
Very relevant.
For many, many players.
Yeah, so there was me, Gagan Narang, Aparna Poot, because we are, so Gagan is of course in sports administration now, but he also has a shooting academy and we have our own business and stuff. And I think it was very important. It was an eye-opener for me because some things, when I started speaking about education and all of that, there were athletes in the room who essentially broke down and said, "Sir, aap to padhe likhe ho, hum kya karenge?" And that kind of hit home hard for me to realize that in a sense, our parents gave us, made sure that education and all of that was important. But for a lot of athletes, that's not there. So then we spoke about soft skilling and how we can try and skill the athletes, and what was my journey coming, just quitting one day and then not having a business background. I mean, my father was a world number 3 in badminton, but he was with a public sector company from start to finish, so very, very middle class, or I would say lower middle class in that sense. The only thing that he had was his name and reputation, and that's something that I acquired as well, right? So I think that way it was a big eye opener, and that's again, I mean, success to me. This would be one of the markers where Aarti and me genuinely, I mean, we have done a fair bit, I would say, in terms of giving back to the sport of tennis. There are some things that we have done for the sport which we don't like to talk about from a CSR perspective in our own small way. But I think if you're able to, work with not only the pickleball ecosystem, but the Indian sporting ecosystem in general, and try
support
and
the players in some way. Yeah,
because again, I mean, we were told time and again there, and sometimes Aarti and me tend to forget it, that we're the only real husband wife who've played for India and then got into business, and
absolutely.
And so that was something that was very gratifying. It was very humbling, and it was a very, very touching experience.
And now, I mean, there's so much to do because we are aspiring to host the 2036 Olympics, not only from the real infrastructure or the support infrastructure side. Like, I feel even purely from performance and what we need to kind of be able to deliver if we have a home Olympics. जैसे I think Jay Shah made a statement कि at least 10 medals से कुछ नहीं होगा, at least 100 medals चाहिए.
Yeah.
तो मैंने I was like थोड़ा ज़्यादा नहीं हो गया. I opened the last Olympic का medal tally, and only US had crossed 100 medals. Even China didn't make it to 100. So what's your take? Like, if Olympics happen, do you see India being a strong performer, or do you see things changing from that perspective?
No, it will definitely change. I mean, with whatever is said and done, I think the Commonwealth Games in Delhi, in my opinion, was a huge success because I think we crossed 100 medals, number one. Number two is that a lot of the infrastructure that today everybody sees, like the metro, for example, if the proverbial Damocles sword of Commonwealth Games wasn't hanging, or it would have taken 3-4 more years, right? So much of the infrastructure, environment perspective, of course, today everybody's forgotten it because of the smog that everybody talks about in Delhi, but I was there, I was part of a few of the committees and stuff. So a lot of impact happened, and we were in Ahmedabad for this IOA Athletes Forum, and I went to Ahmedabad, I'm going to say after 8, 9, 10 years. It's
changed, right?
Yeah, it's changed. So definitely the Commonwealth Games is definitely, I mean, we've got it. It's going to be in Ahmedabad in 2030. Yeah. So it's going to see huge infrastructural development. It's going to see a massive spike in people and kids taking to sport. So definitely getting and organizing these events, definitely at a very, very minuscule scale. It's also the question that you asked me earlier about the league, right? Okay, why do you think a league is important and how? And I think it's the same thing with these big games, right? Having said that, I think that we have to be able to manage it well, and we have to make sure that stadiums, processes, systems, training of our athletes, training of our trainers to be coaches, physios, all of that has to be done alongside, because that is what the legacy of the games will be.
Absolutely.
And I think while there was a lot good that happened in Commonwealth Games, and unfortunately people only talk of the negative, there's also been a huge learning curve for India, for all the stakeholders. So I definitely feel, again, will there be problems in a massive game like this? There's always going to be issues. But I think that for India to become a sporting powerhouse, these kind of events are needed. And
but
even
you think
before,
Ahmedabad is a good host, like in the sense it's a good choice. I understand the politics side of it, but is that a good choice of a host city for us?
see, I think that how do you define a host city? A host city is defined by where there is political will, where there is access to infrastructure, and where things can move at a supersonic speed, right? Now that can happen in Delhi, but Delhi's already held the Commonwealth Games. So I guess the next best place was Ahmedabad, right? Again, there is no such city as a perfect city, right? But from whatever I saw after going 8-9 years in Ahmedabad, I mean, I think that there will be a lot of challenges, like I said, but I don't see why we can't really pull off a great games. Again, like I said, everybody in the ecosystem, or most people in the ecosystem, have to get together. One of the things with Indian sport is, I believe it's still very fragmented. You have the IOA, you have the National Federation, you have SAI, you have the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, you have the state federations, then you have, so while it's happening, and again, I think maybe one of the biggest things that will come out is that all these stakeholders will be forced to come together and work together. I mean, if that happens, India will be a different story when it comes to Indian sport.
It'll be a first though, if that happens. It'll be
एक
थोड़ा controversial सा question है कि do you see our tennis going back to the golden days? Do you see us winning an Olympic medal? Do you see us starting to do well again in terms of consistently being able to produce top 20, 30, 40 ranked players? What has gone wrong? Like, we had a golden 90s and early 2000s, and we were producing good players, and there was obviously a lot of infighting between factions. But where does our tennis stand? And just purely from your experience and now being in the business side of sport.
See, I think that definitely, I mean, can we win another medal in tennis and stuff? I mean, nothing is impossible, right? Having said that, all the top players who have come in the last 40-50 years, unfortunately in tennis, have come in spite of the system. I would say not because of it. Of course, a lot of things have changed from the era of Ramanathan Krishnan and things like that. And I just feel sad because, you had the Krishnans, you had the Amritrajes, then you had Sania, Leander, Mahesh, maybe to a certain extent me, you had Rohan, you had all these players who were right there at the top. And we could have capitalized so much on it. But it's just because the powers that be just didn't have the vision. I mean, if you look at what badminton, I mean, in our house with my dad and me, it was always a joke, right? My dad loved to watch tennis, even though badminton was his game, and I loved to watch badminton, even though tennis was my game. Yeah. But the thing is that, every time we would watch, my dad would feel, why is badminton not as big as tennis? And now if you look at India, because of Saina, Sindhu, Gopi Chand, and the BAI actually took certain steps. Absolutely. And that's why today badminton is far bigger than
and
tennis.
Also all the young people now
exactly want to play badminton. So we had those heroes, we had all these players, but we were not able to capitalize on it. The federation wasn't able to do enough. But again, let's remember that, we had Somdev, who was top 100. Sumit Nagal was 68 as just a year back, I think. So And in today's day and age, to get to 70, 60, 70 in the world is crazy. We have 4 or 5 players in the top 100 in doubles. Now people might say TK it's doubles or whatever. That's a we'll need another 1 hour podcast on that. But can we do it? We certainly can. But we will need to change a lot of things when it comes to tennis in India. And again, it's not that, I want to clarify, I'm not painting everybody with the same brush. There are 3-4 state associations doing a fantastic job. A lot of grassroots development, supporting players, having events and all of that, right? But you need 22 states to do that, not just 3 or 4. And that's the difference.
And a central body that kind of aligns.
Again, the matters in court with the All India Tennis Association. So, everybody's kind of like rabbits caught in floodlights, So that's a problem.
Do you follow much tennis not on TV? Like, who are some of your favorite players now?
So, again, I mean, I also have to say, even though you not asked me that for me, tennis has and will always be something very close to my heart because it's given me whatever I have, right? And again, this question is asked to me a lot. I do follow tennis. Do I watch like a 5-hour match? Probably not. But I'll watch the highlights. I'll see. I'll keep track. So people were wondering, after Borg, McEnroe, who will come? Then you had Sampras and Agassi. Then after Agassi, Sampras gone, you had Federer first, then Nadal, then Djokovic. Then they said after that, who? Now you have Alcaraz and Sinner. I mean, these guys, Alcaraz and Sinner, have taken the game to the next level. Look at the way they're hitting the ball. It's insane, right? So I think tennis globally is in good hands, and there are 2-3 other players, Joshua Fonseca. There are a few other players who will start knocking on the doors of Alcaraz and Sinner very soon, possibly even I would say by later this year. Who will emerge as a more dominant player according to you between these two? So I think Sinner. For the simple reason that he's a lot cleaner in terms of stroke making. Alcaraz is very physical, so he will be more injury prone. And I believe, I've said this 2-3 years back, that I believe Sinner, when they both retire, I believe Sinner will win more slams than Alcaraz.
But more than Djokovic?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say at this level, with the kind of physicality that is there in sport. But again, when Sampras won 11 Grand Slams,
it felt like said no. Nobody can
and
beat that.
Then Federer came to 15, 16. They said nobody will hit that. Then they hit 20. And then we had 3 players in the same era to win 20 slams. I mean, people don't realize how blessed they are to be in the same era to watch a Djokovic, Federer and a Nadal. It's
absolutely.
It's that for sure will never happen. Where one era will have 3 players in tennis winning 20 slam. That is not going to happen for sure.
Yeah, we've said all of that in the past also. But for me, growing up, Agassi was like my guy, and I had the privilege to I was studying in the US for a few years, and in my first year there, 2004 US Open final, it was Agassi and Federer. It felt like literally that match itself was like passing of the baton in a way. Like Federer was coming up. Agassi he was 34. It felt like if he wins this slam, it was a final. If he wins this, he'll probably retire. And he eventually retired the next year. And that atmosphere of Agassi just got a set off Federer. But that atmosphere being in the US, Agassi, almost like a retirement match. It was just a phenomenal experience.
I'm sure.
But in this, Gaurav, like one thing related to this, I wanted to ask also, like there is a debate in tennis that what is better, whether the women's side is better, where you have more equal competition among multiple women, or like the men's side where you had the domination of the big 3 and now these top 2 guys. In other sports also, you have this discussion whether you should have a league where there is like a one favorite, say Real Madrid, Barcelona, or like a Premier League where there are 8-10 teams competing for the same spots. So, like, which side do you think, because of course it has its benefits of having those 3.
Like you have heroes in.
No, I think every every journey has its ups and downs, and you look at Barca today, they're in debt, and they're
बुरी हालत है
unki, right?
Yeah.
I would say just from attracting eyeballs and sponsors and brands, definitely you need 2 or 3 big stars, right? The women's game today has a lot of players, yes.
And multiple winners, that's the thing.
Yeah. So it really depends on which side of the fence you are. For example, the argument is, women's tennis has more depth. There's a lot of competition. You don't know who's going to win. So there's unpredictability. All of that is good. The flip side on the tennis, on the men's side, is that you have these 2 big stars where people who probably don't follow tennis or whatever are going to just watch them because ye kaun hai ye bande, and that's what a Federer did initially, and then Nadal and Djokovic. So I think both have their pros and cons. I think it depends on which perspective and which lens are you looking at it from.
For me, it was like the Sampras Agassi era had the best of both the worlds. You still have these towering figures. People will kind of flock to watch tennis because of them. But then there would be upsets.
Yeah.
Right? There would be like,
No, you had your Gustavo Kuerten, you had Ferrero, you had Todd Martin, you had a whole bunch of other guys as well. But you will always see in any sport, there will be 1 or 2 players who will dominate. Whether it's Formula 1, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, baseball, tennis. You'll always have 1 or 2 players who will.
There's a huge argument to be said also. Like people say, dynasties are good for sport. Like if you have one team like just dominate, like the Chicago Bulls or the Golden State Warriors, like just having a dynasty actually helps the league.
But even if you look at IPL, right? Like even though on every footing, all teams are equal. They have the same purse. You can pick from the same pool.
Yeah.
Like Indian talent is similar. But you still have the dynasties, like you have the Mumbai Indians and the Chennai, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's good for sport that, other teams are aspiring to catch up to them and so on. So just to wrap, Gaurav, tell us, what do we expect from the second season? And most importantly, can you tell us the names of 1 or 2 Indian players to watch out for, not just in this season, but for future as well?
So what to expect from season 2? Well, lots of course, great pickleball, but lots of entertainment, which will include, so Swiggy owns our Bombay team. So, we are doing a whole bunch of stuff with Swiggy scenes. So lots of entertainment, music, food, drink, stand-up comedy, all of that is how we've ingrained it, right? Right from Mentalists and all of that. So a lot of action on that, and it's Geo World Garden, BKC, Jan 27 to Feb 8. So, everybody, just the atmosphere will be very, very festive and fun. At the same time, it's going to be serious as pickleball as well. I think as far as the players, I would say that the 2 players to look out for, one is Vanshik Kapadia. And I think there's Mayur Patil, there's Anuja Maheshwari. So there are a few players who are good, and let's hope that they keep their focus and their thought process, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more of them.
Great. And this is on Sony Live and on
so this
Eurosport.
This is on Sony Live on streaming and on Eurosport. Matches are from 6 p.m. Onwards, and it'll be there up to 10:30. So
Perfect.
Prime time as well. So yeah.
Thank you.
And if anybody's in Bombay at that time,
I'd love to at least,
absolutely happy to come and host all of you.
Absolutely. We'll actually take you up on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Please do that.
No, one thing I wanted to ask, last thing is, since you have this successful transition from a player to a management, like, is there one skill or one advice that you would give that a player should learn during their playing time for a future which is better in management, or just for their career after?
No, I think it's a valid question. Whenever people used to tell me earlier, you've played sport, you have all these life skills and stuff, and I didn't realize it, and I still realize when I introspect today. But I would say 2 things, right? One is, as a sportsman, especially in a game like tennis, where you have half a second or 1 second to react from the time your opponent hits the ball. I think instinct, your first instinct, for me, I didn't trust it when I stopped playing and got into business, but I've realized that my instinct is strong. And the second thing is just you got to keep at it every day. There are, so one of the questions I was asked in the IOA Athletes Conclave is कि sir, खेलना ज़्यादा आसान है या मतलब life after sport या business? And I said life after sport is much tougher. And after we got off the stage and all the athletes came and said, sir, आप ऐसे बोल रहे हो लेकिन sports
खेलना tough लग रहा है. हाँ.
So I said sports is tough, but sports आप खेल रहे हैं 15-20 साल के लिए. If you have a long career, you have your life for 40 years, right? And there are enough challenges. So I think that instinct is one, and I think just showing up every day, no matter what. The routine is boring. It's extremely boring, but that's what we did all our life. And I think just showing up and being consistent and disciplined.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great.
You've taken
Thank
a lot
you.
of your time.
No,
really
that's
appreciate
fine.
it.
That's fine.
And एक दिन तो चलना बनता है.
Yeah. Just message me whenever, or you just swap me whoever.
So guys, if you like this podcast, please consider subscribing to my page. Of course, like करो यार, कुछ comments लिखो, बताओ कि किस और guest को बुलाएं. We are covering all of sports industry, business of sport, administrators, players. बताओ कि किसको बुलाएं. अब ये मत बोलना विराट कोहली को बुलाओ, अभी इतना बड़ा नहीं हुआ podcast, but करो बड़ा फिर.